The following demos showcase cost allocations. The first allocation will disperse costs for different overhead departments, marketing, finance, and IT, to the different business units. The allocations will be dependent upon the relative weight of operating metrics such as quantities, square footage, and number of employees. The amount of each metric relative to the total will determine the cost each business will incur. These costs will then be allocated to the different business units as a non-operating expense. Let's take a look at the rules of this model to better understand how these allocations will take place. As you can see here, the quantity as a percentage of total quantity picks up the actual quantity of this particular member to total product and total business unit. Let's run a view to better understand the percentages that get derived from these operational metrics. As you can see here, this quantity is a percentage of the total quantity. So as I grab this value and divide it by the total, you can see how the percentage is derived. Let's take this percentage, anchor it by total products, and run it across the different cells to see how these calculations have occurred within the model. Take these to 1 decimal and they equal the calcs in our model. If we change the region member, our new calc moves dynamically with our pivot model. Most important, the power of the solution is we have written one rule, and that applies to all regions, all time periods, all products, and all business units. This could have been hundreds or even thousands of cells in a similar Excel model. So to demonstrate the results, let's run a report that shows the resulting overhead allocations for finance, marketing, and IT to the different business units. This allocation is applied at every product at every business unit level. Again, a handful of calculations are driving this entire pivot model. Replicating this model in Excel would be very difficult. The following allocation is a little more complex compared to our other example. The reciprocal allocation is an allocation method that gives full recognition to interdepartmental services. It is more comprehensive than the step method because the step method only gives partial recognition of interdepartment services because it only allocates costs forward, never backwards. The reciprocal method, by contrast, allocates service department costs in both directions. Therefore, the reciprocal allocation requires the use of simultaneous equations. I found a great YouTube video explaining this in Excel by a man named Eric Blazer. So what we did is we put a view together to represent the data that we're going to need to handle this reciprocal allocation method. Load that data, and now you can see the direct costs with administrative, communications, and facilities, and how they're going to be dispersed to the deposits and loans of this fictitious bank organization, and the different metrics that we'll use to apply it. Under this method, the true costs of the service departments are computed first with the help of simultaneous equations, and these costs are then distributed to producing departments on the basis of given percentage or ratio. Remember that the true cost of the service department means the cost of the services department, which includes original cost of the department plus a share of the other service department. The main advantage of this method is to have an accurate distribution in a single step in the distribution summary. Therefore, through the rule logic, as we see these allocations, for example, facilities, you'll notice that those costs are being allocated to the other 4 corresponding departments. And you can see that occur with communications as well as administration. So before we run this, let's go over to the Excel options, and there's a capability under formulas to enable iterative calculations. And what this does is it gives Excel the power to do simultaneous equations. And now we're going to go ahead and run our rules with this on to solve our problem here. And now as we refresh, we see the allocation take place across all the different departments, netting out to 0. And as you can see, we ran this for every single month of the year, all the way back to the year. So now we can see how administration, communications, and facilities has been allocated to deposits and loans.